What this highly trained K9 did at a busy international airport left everyone baffled and an entire commercial airliner grounded. Military working dog Atlas stood defiantly in front of a Boeing 777 loaded with 342 passengers, refusing to budge despite commands from his experienced handler. The flight crew, initially frustrated by the delay, became speechless when they discovered the real reason behind the shepherd's stubborn behavior. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning at North Point International Airport had begun like countless others before it. Travelers hurried through gleaming terminals, dragging wheeled luggage and checking boarding passes on smartphones. Flight attendants in crisp Navy uniforms reviewed safety procedures while pilots examined weather patterns and flight plans. The rhythm of one of the nation's busiest transportation hubs moved with practiced precision until one extraordinary animal brought everything to a standstill. Among the day's roster of pilots preparing for international departures was Captain Gabriel Mercer, a decorated former Air Force pilot with over 15,000 flight hours logged during his 27-year career. At 53, Mercer carried himself with the quiet confidence that came from navigating aircraft through everything from thunderstorms over the Pacific to mechanical emergencies above the Atlantic. The slight streaks of silver at his temples and faint lines around his eyes spoke of experience rather than age. "Weather systems look favorable all the way to Frankfurt," noted First Officer Isabel Reyes, scrolling through meteorological data on her tablet. At 34, Reyes represented a new generation of pilots, technically brilliant and meticulously trained. "We might encounter some light turbulence crossing the eastern seaboard, but nothing significant." Mercer nodded, his mind already mentally tracing their planned route across the Atlantic. Transglobal Flight 237 was scheduled for an 11:20 a.m. departure, carrying a full complement of passengers and crew on the 10-hour journey to Germany. The Boeing 777-300ER had been serviced overnight, refueled at dawn, and now waited at Gate E42 like a massive gleaming bird of prey ready for flight. Among the passengers moving through security was Dr. Elena Vassallo, a renowned immunologist, returning to her research institute in Frankfurt after presenting at a medical conference. Absorbed in reviewing notes for an upcoming publication, she barely registered the standard security protocols as she moved through the terminal. What she couldn't know was how significantly her expertise would be needed before the day ended. In another section of the sprawling airport complex, security specialist Marcus Harding was conducting routine patrols with his partner, a 4-year-old Belgian Malinois named Atlas. The dog's intensity and focus had earned him a reputation throughout North Point's security division. His extraordinary abilities weren't limited to standard detection work. Atlas had demonstrated an almost uncanny sense for identifying potential threats that other security measures missed. "Final check of Terminal E. Then we'll break for lunch," Harding told Atlas, though he knew the shepherd understood routine more than specific words. At 38, Harding's military background was evident in his posture and methodical approach to security protocols. After 3 tours overseas with the Army's K9 division, he had found his calling in civilian aviation security, where the stakes remained high but the dangers were typically less immediate. The bond between handler and dog ran deeper than most. Human partnerships, forged through thousands of hours of training and strengthened during high-pressure situations, Harding had learned to trust Atlas's instincts implicitly. The dog had proven his value repeatedly, detecting prohibited items that had slipped past technological screening systems and once identifying an undeclared shipment of exotic reptiles hidden in specialized containers. As they completed their circuit through Terminal E, Harding noticed a subtle shift in Atlas's demeanor. The shepherd's ears perked forward, his stride becoming more purposeful, his nose working more actively. These were signals Harding had learned to recognize, indicators that Atlas had detected something requiring investigation. "What have you got, boy?" Harding murmured, giving the dog more lead. Atlas's pace quickened, leading them toward the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the tarmac where several aircraft were being prepared for departure. Harding expected Atlas to stop, perhaps having caught scent of something requiring closer inspection within the terminal. Instead, the dog pressed his nose against the glass, eyes fixed on a loading operation below. Ground crew members in high-visibility vests were loading cargo into the hold of the Boeing 787 scheduled for Flight 237. Nothing about the scene appeared unusual to Harding's experienced eyes, just the standard pre-flight loading procedures occurring at gates across the airport. Yet Atlas's attention remained unwavering, a low whine building in his throat. Then, without warning, Atlas bolted. With a sudden surge of power that caught Harding completely off guard, the shepherd yanked the lead from his handler's grasp and dashed toward the nearest exit door, typically used by maintenance staff accessing the tarmac. "Atlas! Heel!" Harding commanded sharply, but the dog had already disappeared through the door, which had been propped open momentarily by a ground crew member returning to the terminal. Harding sprinted after his partner, simultaneously reaching for his radio to alert airport security about the situation. Outside on the sun-baked tarmac, controlled chaos erupted as Atlas raced directly toward Flight 237. Ground crew scattered, startled by the charging shepherd with the security harness and no handler in sight. The dog moved with singular purpose, making a beeline for the cargo hold, where workers were loading the final containers. By the time Harding emerged onto the tarmac, Atlas had positioned himself directly before the cargo loading area, his posture rigid, his attention fixed on one particular container waiting to be loaded. The dog's stance was unmistakable to anyone familiar with detection training. Atlas had found something. "Sir, you need to control your dog," shouted the ramp supervisor, a veteran ground controller named Raymond Chen, who had witnessed thousands of aircraft departures, but never anything like this. "Working dog, possible security situation," Harding responded breathlessly, displaying his credentials while attempting to assess what had triggered Atlas's extraordinary behavior. The shepherd remained immovable, ignoring even Harding's commands to heel, something that had never happened in their 4 years working together. Inside the cockpit, Captain Mercer was completing pre-flight checks when the tower communication crackled through his headset. "Transglobal 237, be advised we have a security situation on the tarmac near your position. Hold all boarding procedures until further notice." Mercer exchanged glances with First Officer Reyes, whose expression mirrored his own concern. Security delays weren't uncommon in international aviation, but they typically occurred during passenger screening, not during final loading procedures, with an aircraft already prepared for departure. "Copy that, Tower. What's the nature of the situation?" Mercer inquired, already calculating how this unexpected delay might impact their flight plan, connection schedules, and fuel requirements. "We have a K9 unit alerting on cargo designated. For your aircraft, security protocols are being implemented. Stand by for further information." On the tarmac, the situation had intensified. Airport Security Director Diane Lockhart had arrived, quickly assessing the scene with the sharp eye of someone who had spent 25 years protecting transportation infrastructure from evolving threats. "What's happening, Harding?" she demanded, watching as Atlas maintained his unwavering position, eyes locked on a nondescript cargo container. "Director, Atlas has never behaved like this before," Harding explained, not hiding his concern. "He detected something from inside the terminal, broke protocol to get out here, and now he's fixated on that container. He won't respond to commands to disengage. Lockhart studied the shepherd, then the container, her mind calculating risk factors and response protocols. What's in that container, according to the manifest? A ground crew member consulted a digital tablet. Electronic components for a medical research facility in Frankfurt, all properly documented and cleared through customs and security screening. Not good enough, Lockhart decided, her instincts aligning with the dog's obvious alert behavior. Clear the area. I want a secondary inspection team here immediately, and notify the captain there will be a delay. As these events unfolded, on the tarmac, passengers already seated on Flight 237 were growing restless. Through her window seat in business class, Dr. Vassallo observed the unusual activity below with professional curiosity. The presence of security personnel and what appeared to be a working dog suggested something beyond routine procedures, triggering her analytical mind to consider potential scenarios. Across the aisle, investment banker Thomas Richter checked his watch impatiently. "What's the hold-up now?" he muttered to no one in particular, unaware that his carefully scheduled meetings in Frankfurt were about to become the least of his concerns. In the cockpit, Captain Mercer addressed the growing situation with the calm professionalism that had defined his career. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're experiencing a brief delay due to a security procedure on the tarmac. We appreciate your patience and will provide more information as it becomes available." The carefully worded announcement revealed nothing about the German shepherd who stood unmoving before the aircraft, refusing every command to stand down, creating a mystery that would soon unveil something none of them could have anticipated. Something that would leave everyone from the seasoned captain to the experienced security director speechless when they discovered what Atlas had sensed that all their advanced technology had missed. The remarkable story of Atlas, the Belgian Malinois who would soon be at the center of an international security revelation, began long before that fateful morning at North Point International Airport. Born at the prestigious Hochfeld Working Dog Center in Bavaria, Atlas had demonstrated extraordinary abilities from his earliest training assessments. While most detection dogs showed proficiency in identifying specific substances, Atlas exhibited what his trainers called intuitive detection, an almost sixth sense for identifying anomalies that defied standard training protocols. At just 10 weeks old, Atlas had navigated complex scent discrimination tests with unprecedented accuracy. By 6 months, he could detect explosive compounds in concentrations so minute that specialized equipment struggled to verify their presence. The German trainers, who had developed working dogs for 3 generations, recognized they were working with an animal whose capabilities extended beyond conventional understanding of canine detection abilities. In 40 years of training military and security dogs, I have never seen an animal with abilities like Atlas, remarked Klaus Hochfeld, the center's director, in an evaluation that would later become part of the dog's exceptional service record. He doesn't just detect what he is trained to find, he identifies threats that he shouldn't logically be able to recognize. This uncanny ability had caught the attention of international security agencies, leading to Atlas's placement with the Enhanced Security Division at North Point. Marcus Harding had been selected as his handler specifically because of his experience with exceptional detection dogs during his military service. The former Army Ranger possessed the unique combination of technical expertise and intuitive understanding required to work with an animal whose abilities sometimes transcended conventional explanation. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Their partnership had been cemented during an intensive 16-week training period that tested both human and canine to their limits. Where other handlers might have imposed rigid command structures, Harding recognized that Atlas's extraordinary capabilities required a different approach, one that balanced disciplined protocols with room for the dog's inexplicable intuition to operate. "You don't control a dog like Atlas," Harding had explained during a training assessment. "You create a partnership where his abilities can be channeled effectively." That partnership had yielded impressive results over 4 years of service. Atlas had identified concealed contraband that had evaded both human inspectors and technological screening systems. He had alerted to a passenger whose diabetic crisis was still hours from becoming apparent, saving the man's life when the flight crew diverted him to medical attention based solely on the dog's behavior. His service record contained 12 major interdictions and over 200 routine detections, establishing him as North Point's most effective security asset. Yet nothing in that distinguished service history explained the shepherd's current behavior, rigid and immovable, before the cargo hold of Flight 237, ignoring commands from the handler he had obeyed faithfully for 4 years. On the tarmac, the situation had escalated from a procedural delay to a full security response. Director Lockhart had established a perimeter around the aircraft, and the specialized cargo inspection team had arrived with portable scanning equipment. "I want detailed imaging of that container before anyone approaches it," Lockhart instructed, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making high-stakes decisions. At 55, Diane Lockhart had navigated aviation security through the industry's most challenging evolutions. The silver streak in her dark hair and the perpetual furrow between her brows spoke to years of vigilance against threats that constantly changed form. The inspection team deployed a mobile scanning unit, technology capable of generating 3-dimensional images of a container's contents without opening it. The operator, a technical specialist named Omar Rodriguez, methodically directed the scanner around the suspicious cargo, his experienced fingers manipulating controls to enhance the resulting images on his screen. "Initial scan shows contents consistent with manifest," Rodriguez reported, adjusting parameters to increase resolution. "Electronic components appropriately packaged, nothing obviously suspicious in configuration or density." Yet Atlas remained unmoved, his attention fixed on the container with an intensity that Harding had never witnessed before. The dog's behavior contradicted the technology's findings, creating a decision point that would test the entire security hierarchy. "Run!" "Biological and chemical detection," Lockhart ordered, watching Atlas closely. 25 years of security experience had taught her that technology, despite its sophistication, sometimes missed what evolved biological systems, like a dog's sense of smell, could detect. And contact the shipper for detailed information about exactly what components are in that container. Inside the aircraft, the atmosphere had shifted from mild annoyance to growing concern as the delay extended beyond routine timeframes. Flight attendants moved through the cabin, offering water and reassurances, while carefully avoiding specifics about the situation unfolding on the tarmac below. "I've been flying this route for 15 years, remarked senior flight attendant Gabriela Morales to a junior crew member, her voice low enough that passengers couldn't overhear. "I've never seen this kind of security response for cargo inspection. Something unusual is happening." In the cockpit, Captain Mercer received updated information through secure channels. "Tower advises continued hold on departure, security, inspection ongoing with no timeline for resolution," he informed First Officer Reyes, who was recalculating fuel requirements based on varying delay scenarios. "Should we begin deplaning procedures?" Reyes asked, aware that extended ground delays created cascading complications from life support systems to connection schedules. Mercer considered the question with the measured calm that had defined his approach to aviation challenges throughout his career. "Not yet. Let's give security 15 more minutes before we make that call. Something about this feels different from routine delays. On the tarmac, the additional testing had yielded no explanations for Atlas's behavior. Chemical. Sensors detected nothing abnormal. Biological screening revealed no pathogens or organic compounds that shouldn't be present. The container's documentation appeared flawless, shipped by Heidelberg Precision Instruments to the Frankfurt Medical Research Institute, containing specialized imaging components for research applications. Atlas had not moved a muscle, his posture communicating absolute certainty to anyone familiar with detection dog behavior. "I don't care what the scans show," Harding stated firmly to Director Lockhart. "In 4 years, Atlas has never given a false positive. If he says something's wrong with that container, something is wrong." Lockhart weighed the competing imperatives, the pressure to maintain schedules against the potential security implications of ignoring the dog's alert. The decision would reflect aviation security's most fundamental challenge, balancing efficiency against safety, technological assessment against human and canine judgment. "Open it," she decided finally. "Full protocols. Assume potential hazardous. Materials until proven otherwise." The specialized cargo inspection team donned protective equipment before carefully unsealing the container. Following established procedures, they systematically removed the outer packaging to reveal precisely what the manifest had described: electronic components in specialized protective casings, each labeled with appropriate documentation from Heidelberg Precision Instruments. "Everything matches the manifest," confirmed Rodriguez, methodically checking each component against the detailed shipping documents. "State-of-the-art medical imaging processors, cooling systems, data storage. Arrays all standard for research applications. Yet Atlas's behavior remained unchanged. If anything, his focus had intensified, his attention now directed specifically toward one section of the components. Dr. Elena Vassallo, watching from her window seat, had pieced together enough of the unfolding situation to recognize that something extraordinary was occurring. As an immunologist who regularly shipped specialized equipment between research facilities, she understood the rigorous security protocols surrounding such transports. Whatever was happening went beyond standard procedures. Drawing on her professional expertise and natural curiosity, she pressed the call button for flight attendant assistance. "Excuse me," she addressed the responding crew member quietly. "I'm Dr. Elena Vassallo, head of immunology research at Frankfurt Medical Institute. Those components being inspected are likely destined for our facility. If there's a potential issue, I might be able to provide technical expertise." This information quickly reached the cockpit, where Captain Mercer made a decision that broke with standard protocols, but aligned with his belief in utilizing all available resources during unusual situations. "Inform security we have a passenger with relevant expertise," he instructed. "Ask if Dr. Vassallo's input would be valuable at this juncture." Minutes later, under escort and appropriate security measures, Dr. Vassallo joined the inspection team on the tarmac. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of Atlas, still rigidly focused, still absolutely certain of his detection despite all technological evidence to the contrary. "Remarkable animal," she noted, before turning her attention to the exposed components. With the practiced efficiency of someone accustomed to evaluating complex systems, she examined the equipment while maintaining appropriate distance. "These are indeed advanced medical imaging components," she confirmed after several minutes of careful observation. "However," she paused, her brow furrowing as she noticed something subtle. "The configuration of this cooling system is unusual for research applications. This particular arrangement would be more typical in portable field units than laboratory settings." Her observation provided the first human confirmation that something about the shipment might indeed be inconsistent with its stated purpose. It wasn't proof of threat or danger, but it supported Atlas's persistent alert behavior, a discrepancy where everything had appeared perfectly in order. "Is there any way to look inside these components without damaging them?" Dr. Vassallo asked. "In legitimate medical imaging systems, the internal architecture should follow very specific configurations." Rodriguez adjusted his scanning equipment, recalibrating to penetrate the components themselves rather than just the overall container. At his side, Director Lockhart watched with growing certainty that her decision to trust the dog's behavior over technological assurances had been correct. As the scanner revealed the internal structure of the components, Dr. Vassallo's expression shifted from professional curiosity to genuine concern. "That's not right," she stated definitively, pointing to the scan results. "These internal structures aren't consistent with medical imaging equipment. These modifications would serve no legitimate research purpose." In that moment, the wisdom of trusting Atlas's extraordinary detection abilities became clear. Despite sophisticated documentation, despite passing multiple security screenings, despite fooling advanced scanning technology, something was concealed within the seemingly legitimate shipment, something that only an exceptional detection dog had recognized as wrong. The extraordinary partnership between handler and dog, built on thousands of hours of training and mutual trust, had identified what no technology could detect. Atlas's unwavering certainty had prevailed against all technological evidence to the contrary, revealing a truth that would soon leave everyone from the cockpit to the boardroom speechless when the full scope of what he had detected became clear. The bright June sun beat down on the tarmac as the investigation shifted into its critical phase, with Dr. Vassallo's expert assessment confirming structural anomalies in the equipment. Director Lockhart immediately elevated the security response. She ordered a full hazardous materials team to the scene and established a wider security perimeter around Flight 237. "I want every passenger manifested for that flight identified and cross-referenced against all security databases," she instructed. Her deputy, a former FBI analyst named Jerome Wilson, "and get me everything we have on Heidelberg precision instruments. Corporate structure, shipping history, security clearances, everything." Atlas remained in position, his attention unwavering despite the increasing activity around him. The Shepard's remarkable focus had now extended beyond 30 minutes, an extraordinary duration for a detection pose that typically lasted only moments before a handler's acknowledgement and reward. Harding stood nearby, a mixture of pride and concern evident in his expression as he watched his partner maintain vigilance while specialized teams in protective gear prepared for a more intensive examination. "Has he ever maintained alert this long before?" Lockhart asked Harding, genuine respect evident in her tone. "Never," Harding replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "Whatever he's detecting, it's triggering his strongest possible response." Inside the terminal, Jerome Wilson had commandeered a secure operations center, where he coordinated the rapidly expanding investigation. Screens displayed flight manifests, cargo documentation, and corporate records as analysts worked to identify potential connections or anomalies. "Heidelberg Precision appears legitimate at first glance," reported analyst Sophia Chen, her fingers moving rapidly across her keyboard. "Founded in 1983, specializes in medical and research equipment, over 400 employees, regular supplier to research institutions across Europe and North America." Wilson nodded, his experienced eyes catching something on another screen. "Wait, cross-reference the shipping agent. Who handled the export documentation and transport arrangements?" "Meridian Global Logistics," Chen responded after several keystrokes. They've managed 16 previous shipments from Heidelberg to various research facilities in the last 8 months. Run deep background on Meridian. I want to know every principal, every subsidiary, every connection, Wilson instructed, his instincts from 15 years of counter-terrorism work activating. And let's see if any of those previous 16 shipments align with unusual incidents or reports. On the tarmac, the hazardous materials team had established a portable containment unit where they could safely examine the suspicious components. Dr. Vassallo had been equipped with protective gear to provide ongoing technical consultation as they dismantled the first piece of equipment, the cooling system whose configuration had initially triggered her concern. Under her guidance, technicians carefully removed the external housing, revealing a complex arrangement of circuitry and mechanics that appeared purposefully designed to mimic legitimate medical equipment when subjected to standard security scans. This is sophisticated deception, Dr. Vassallo observed, pointing to specific components. These elements serve no functional purpose for cooling or imaging. They're positioned specifically to create scan signatures that match legitimate equipment. Patterns. Rodriguez operated a specialized chemical detection system, carefully analyzing the exposed interior surfaces. We're detecting trace elements consistent with metallic compounds typically used in... He paused, recalibrating his equipment to confirm the reading. Weapons-grade materials. Director Lockhart's expression remained composed, though the gravity of the situation was evident in her posture. Are we talking explosives? Radiological? Neither, Rodriguez replied, his voice reflecting professional concern. The signature suggests advanced delivery systems for biological or chemical agents, dormant now but designed for remote activation. The implications sent a chill through everyone present despite the summer heat. What Atlas had detected wasn't just contraband or a prohibited item. It was components of a sophisticated weapons system disguised as medical equipment, designed to evade standard security protocols and potentially threaten thousands of lives. In the Secure Operations Center, Wilson's team had uncovered the first threads of a broader pattern. Director, I'm seeing something concerning, he reported via secure communication. 3 previous shipments managed by Meridian Global Logistics were flagged for additional inspection at different European airports in the past 6 months. All were subsequently cleared and delivered. Based on what we're finding here, that clearance may have been dangerously premature, Lockhart responded. I want trace detection teams dispatched to verify the status of those delivered shipments immediately. Inside the aircraft, Captain Mercer had received enough information through secure channels to understand the growing severity of the situation. With the calm decisiveness that defined his leadership style, he initiated controlled, deplaning procedures. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Mercer speaking. His voice resonated through the cabin, measured and reassuring despite the extraordinary circumstances. Due to an extended security inspection of cargo designated for our flight, we will be returning to the terminal. Please follow crew instructions for an orderly deplaning process. We apologize for this disruption and will provide updated information regarding our departure as soon as possible. As passengers gathered their belongings, murmurs of speculation spread throughout the cabin. Most assumed routine security delays, unaware of the potential catastrophe that a single Belgian Malinois had prevented through his extraordinary detection abilities. Thomas Richter, the investment banker who had earlier complained about the delay, found himself seated next to Dr. Vassallo's empty seat. Typical security theatre, he remarked to another passenger. Probably nothing serious, just bureaucracy causing delays. The flight attendant who overheard his comment maintained her professional composure. though she now knew enough about the unfolding situation to recognize how profoundly wrong his assessment was. Sometimes the most significant moments of protection occurred without those being protected ever realizing the danger they had faced. Back at the containment area, the investigation had reached a critical juncture. With the first component partially disassembled, security specialists had identified a sophisticated communication system embedded within what appeared to be standard control circuitry. "This is designed to receive encrypted activation signals," explained technical specialist Layla Mahmood, carefully examining the circuitry without disturbing it. Once activated, it would interface with these other components to disperse whatever substance is contained in these sealed reservoirs. Dr. Vassallo studied the design with growing alarm. Based on the delivery mechanism configuration, this system could potentially aerosolize biological or chemical agents throughout a sealed environment like a research facility. The dispersal would be gradual enough to avoid immediate detection, but efficient enough to expose everyone in the building. Or it could be reconfigured for other environments, added Mahmood, her expertise in weapon systems evident in her assessment. Conference centers, government buildings, transportation hubs, any enclosed space could become a target. The full implications of what Atlas had prevented began to crystallize. Had these components reached their destination and been assembled, they could have enabled a catastrophic attack against an unknown target, potentially killing or injuring hundreds or thousands, depending on the agent deployed and the location targeted. In the operations center, Wilson's team had uncovered another critical piece of the puzzle. "Director, we've identified suspicious financial transactions connected to Meridian Global Logistics," reported financial analyst Dev Patel. "Their corporate structure includes a subsidiary registered in Cyprus that's received substantial funding from accounts previously flagged for potential connections to international arms dealers." "And the Frankfurt Medical Research Institute?" Lockhart asked, connecting elements of the emerging picture. "Legitimate organization," confirmed Chen. "But we've just discovered they never ordered these particular components. The purchase order documentation is sophisticated forgery. It would pass standard verification, but when we contacted the Institute directly, they confirmed no such order exists. The pieces were falling into place, a sophisticated operation, using falsified documentation, legitimate corporate fronts, and technologically advanced components designed to evade standard security measures. The scheme had nearly succeeded in moving deadly materials across international borders, stopped only because of one extraordinary dog's inexplicable ability to detect what technology had missed. Meanwhile, Atlas had finally been permitted to break his alert position after hazardous materials specialists took control of the scene. Harding offered him water and lavish praise, which the shepherd accepted with the measured enthusiasm of a professional who understood he had successfully completed a critical mission. "How did he know?" Rodriguez asked Harding as they watched the continuing investigation from a safe distance. "We had multiple scanners show nothing unusual. The documentation passed verification. Every technological system we have said this. Shipment was exactly what it claimed to be." Harding shook his head slightly, a gesture that acknowledged the mystery at the heart of his partner's extraordinary capabilities. "There are some things technology just can't replicate. Atlas doesn't just detect specific substances or signatures. He identifies patterns of wrongness that don't fit with normal situations. It's beyond what we've been able to quantify or explain." On the outer perimeter of the security zone, media had begun to gather as word of unusual activity at North Point spread through journalist networks. The airport's public affairs team had issued only a brief statement about ongoing security protocols causing delays at Terminal E, But the presence of hazardous materials teams and the deplaning of a major international flight suggested something far more significant. Inside the terminal, Captain Mercer and First Officer Reyes had joined Director Lockhart for a secure briefing on the unfolding situation. As they reviewed the preliminary findings, the gravity of what had nearly occurred settled over them. Technical jargon and security protocols couldn't obscure the fundamental truth. They were witnessing the exposure of a sophisticated attempt to transport components of a weapon system that could have killed countless innocent people. If that dog hadn't detected it, Mercer began, his voice trailing off as the implications registered fully. But he did, Lockhart finished firmly. That's what matters. The system worked, not the technology, not the documentation checks, but the integrated human and canine elements that provide depth beyond what machines can achieve. As the investigation expanded to international dimensions, with Interpol and multiple intelligence agencies now involved, the remarkable Belgian Malinois at the center of the discovery had returned to his handler's side. Atlas showed no awareness of his extraordinary contribution to public safety, no comprehension that his inexplicable detection abilities had potentially saved hundreds or thousands of lives. For him, it had simply been another day of doing what he was trained to do, identifying things that didn't belong, alerting his human partner to potential threats, maintaining focus until the danger was addressed. The sophisticated nature of the threat, its international implications, the lives potentially saved, these were human concerns beyond a working dog's comprehension. Yet in his simple, unwavering commitment to his duties, Atlas had demonstrated something profound about security in an increasingly technological age. Despite advanced scanning systems, despite sophisticated documentation protocols, despite increasingly automated security processes, the most effective defense against evolving threats remained the extraordinary partnership between humans and dogs, a bond built on thousands of years of coevolution and strengthened through rigorous training. As the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, casting long shadows across North Point International Airport, the full scope of what Atlas had prevented was still emerging. But one thing had become abundantly clear to everyone involved. Sometimes, the most sophisticated threats could only be stopped by the oldest and most fundamental form of security, the extraordinary sensory capabilities of a dog who refused to move until humans understood what he already knew. Within hours of Atlas's remarkable discovery, what had begun as an unusual security incident at North Point International Airport evolved into a multi-agency international investigation. As evening descended over the airport, the terminal that had bustled with routine travel that morning now operated as a coordinated command center for one of the most significant security operations in recent aviation history. In the secured conference room overlooking the tarmac, Director Lockhart hosted a virtual briefing with representatives from Interpol, various intelligence agencies, and aviation security officials from multiple countries. The gravity of the situation was reflected in the expressions of everyone present, both physically and virtually, as technical specialists presented their preliminary analysis of the intercepted components. Based on our initial assessment, these components were designed to integrate into existing HVAC systems at their destination, explained Mahmoud, now leading the technical analysis team. Her presentation displayed detailed images of the disguised equipment with key elements highlighted. Once activated remotely, they would release aerosolized compounds into the air circulation system. The sophistication of the design suggests professional weapons engineering, not amateur or terrorist improvisation. "Do we know what agent was intended for deployment?" asked Werner Krauss, the stern-faced Interpol representative, whose 3 decades of experience with international threats was evident in the precise efficiency of his questions. "The reservoirs were designed to be filled at the destination," Mahmoud replied. "The components we intercepted are essentially the delivery mechanism, not the payload itself." This approach significantly reduced the risk of detection during transport, as the most dangerous elements would have been added later. "Clever," noted Krauss grimly. Had these components reached their destination, standard security protocols would have had no reason to flag them during customs clearance or delivery verification. Director Lockhart nodded, her composed demeanor belying the intensity of the past several hours. Which brings us to the central question: what was the actual target and who was behind this? The briefing shifted to Jerome Wilson, whose team had been coordinating international information gathering since the first anomalies were detected. His methodical presentation style reflected his analytical background as he shared what had been uncovered about the companies involved. "Heidelberg Precision Instruments appears to have been compromised approximately 14 months ago," Wilson explained, displaying corporate documentation and financial records. "While the company itself remains legitimate, with most employees unaware of any irregularities, we've identified 3 key personnel who were strategically placed within the organization, specifically in export documentation, quality control, and shipping logistics." The screen displayed photographs of the individuals in question, professionals whose unremarkable appearances gave no indication of their apparent involvement in an international weapons smuggling operation. All 3 began employment with Heidelberg between 14 and 16 months ago, with impeccable credentials and references that now appear to be sophisticated fabrications, Wilson continued. 2 have disappeared within the last 6 hours, likely alerted when the shipment was delayed at North Point. The investigation had also revealed that Meridian Global Logistics, initially appearing to be merely the shipping coordinator, served as a crucial nexus in the operation. Its corporate structure included layers of subsidiaries and holding companies that created a deliberate maze designed to obscure ownership and operational control. Financial analysis shows Meridian's Cyprus-based subsidiary receiving substantial funding through a sophisticated network of transactions originating from accounts associated with arms dealer Viktor Zhardanov, reported Dev Patel, displaying a complex diagram of financial flows across multiple jurisdictions. The mention of Zhardanov's name caused visible reactions among several intelligence officials in the virtual meeting. The Ukrainian-born arms dealer had eluded capture for nearly a decade, his operations extending across Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Africa. Known for supplying weapons to various conflict zones through elaborate smuggling networks, Zhardanov had recently expanded into more sophisticated technologies with military and terrorist applications. If Zhardanov is involved, this is likely part of a contracted weapons delivery to a specific client, not an independent operation, noted Elizabeth Chambers, the CIA representative whose specialization in weapons proliferation made her assessment particularly significant. His organization doesn't deploy weapons themselves, they supply to those who do, which means identifying the actual target remains our highest priority, Lockhart concluded, her tone reflecting the urgency of the situation. The investigation had expanded to include the destinations of previous shipments handled through the same network. 3 research facilities across Europe had received similar equipment in the past 6 months. Emergency inspection teams had been dispatched to each location, operating with local authorities to secure the potentially dangerous components before they could be activated or repurposed. Meanwhile, forensic analysis of the intercepted equipment continued in a specialized laboratory established within the airport's secure zone. Dr. Vassallo worked alongside technical specialists, her expertise in medical research equipment providing crucial context for understanding how legitimate technology had been modified for deadly purposes. "The engineering is remarkable in its deceptiveness," she observed, examining microscopic images of circuit boards that had been designed to mimic medical equipment while serving entirely different functions. "Every element has dual purpose, appearing medically legitimate under inspection while actually serving the weapons system functionality. It's like a technological Trojan horse," noted Rodriguez, who had transitioned from initial detection to detailed forensic analysis, "designed specifically to exploit the assumptions and limitations of security screening processes." As the technical team continued their work, Captain Mercer and First Officer Reyes had been integrated into the investigation due to their aviation security expertise and their direct connection to the intercepted shipment. Having been fully briefed on the situation's severity, they provided valuable insights on cargo protocols and potential vulnerabilities in international aviation security systems. "The brilliance of this approach is its exploitation of routine," Mercer explained during a consultation with Lockhart's team. "Aviation security naturally focuses greatest scrutiny on passengers and their immediate belongings. Cargo, especially routine shipments with established documentation patterns from recognized companies, receives more standardized, often automated verification. They essentially camouflaged a weapons system within the most mundane-appearing equipment possible," added Reyes. "Medical research components are shipped globally every day without incident." This assessment reinforced what had become increasingly clear throughout the investigation. Without Atlas's extraordinary intervention, the disguised components would have continued their journey undetected, potentially resulting in a catastrophic attack against an unknown target. Outside the secure investigation zone, Harding and Atlas had been relocated to private quarters within the airport complex. Although their direct involvement in the technical investigation had concluded once the hazardous materials team took control, they remained under protection due to the high-profile nature of the case and the significant threat that had been uncovered. Atlas lay at Harding's feet, seemingly unaffected by the international security operation he had initiated. Having received his reward, a special play session with his favorite training toy and enthusiastic recognition from his handler, the Belgian Malinois had returned to his professional equilibrium, ready for whatever assignment came next. "You've started something remarkable today, boy," Harding told his partner, reaching down to scratch behind the shepherd's ears, "though I don't think either of us realized just how big it would become." Atlas looked up at his handler with the attentive intelligence characteristic of his breed, responding to the familiar voice rather than the specific words. The bond between them, forged through thousands of hours of training and strengthened through countless security operations, transcended verbal communication. In the main terminal, most travelers remained unaware of the significant threat that had been averted. Flight 237's passengers had been rebooked on alternative flights or provided accommodations pending rescheduled departures. The airport's public affairs team had managed the situation with carefully crafted statements about security protocols requiring additional verification of certain cargo shipments, revealing nothing about the weapons components or the international investigation now underway. Among the few who understood the true significance of the day's events was Dr. Vassallo, whose expertise had helped confirm what Atlas had somehow detected through barriers specifically designed to defeat technological screening systems. As she took a brief break from the ongoing forensic work, she found herself in the same secure area where Harding and Atlas were stationed. "May I?" she asked Harding, gesturing toward Atlas. "Of course," Harding replied. "He's off duty now, but maintain slow movements. He's still processing everything that's happened today. Dr. Vassallo approached carefully, kneeling at a respectful distance from the shepherd. "I've spent my career developing technologies to improve human health," she said quietly, addressing her remarks to both handler and dog. Advanced imaging systems, diagnostic tools, therapeutic devices, all designed to see beyond what human senses can detect. She extended her hand slowly, allowing Atlas to sniff her fingers before she gently stroked his head. Yet today, this remarkable animal detected something that all our advanced technology missed, something specifically engineered to evade our most sophisticated detection systems. Atlas accepted her attention with professional dignity, neither seeking more nor moving away. "How do you explain it?" she asked Harding. "From a scientific perspective, what he did today seems almost impossible." Harding considered the question thoughtfully. After years of working with exceptional detection dogs, he had developed his own understanding of their remarkable capabilities, an understanding that balanced technical knowledge with respect for abilities that sometimes defied simple explanation. Dogs, like Atlas, don't perceive the world as categories and patterns the way our technology does, he explained. They don't distinguish between suspicious and normal based on programmed parameters. Their detection abilities evolved over thousands of years to identify anything that doesn't belong in their environment, anything that represents potential threat or opportunity. He watched his partner with evident pride. Where our technology can be defeated by understanding its detection parameters and designing around them, Atlas responds to the totality of what he senses. Subtle chemical signatures, minute differences in material composition, even changes in air current or temperature that might indicate something concealed. And most importantly, he's not constrained by expectations about what he should find. This intrinsic advantage, detection based on sensory input rather than programmed parameters, had enabled Atlas to identify components specifically designed to defeat technological screening. The weapons system developers had created their disguise to fool machines and humans, following standard protocols. They hadn't accounted for a Belgian Malinois whose extraordinary sensory capabilities transcended those limitations. As night fell over North Point International Airport, the investigation continued to expand in scope and significance. What had begun with one dog's refusal to move from the front of an aircraft had unveiled an international weapons smuggling operation with potentially catastrophic implications. Intelligence agencies across 3 continents now pursued leads, tracked suspects, and secured additional components that had been shipped through the same network. In the coming days, the full extent of what Atlas had prevented would become clearer as investigators pieced together the intended destination and purpose of the intercepted weapons system. But already, one truth had emerged with undeniable clarity. In an age of increasingly sophisticated threats designed to exploit the limitations of technology, the extraordinary bond between humans and working dogs remained one of security's most effective and irreplaceable elements. This partnership, built on mutual trust, intensive training, and capabilities that complemented each other perfectly, had proven its value in the most dramatic way possible. A single Belgian Malinois, trusting his exceptional senses and training, had stood immovable before an aircraft until humans understood what he already knew, that something dangerous and deadly lay concealed within, regardless of what technology indicated. In doing so, Atlas had not only prevented a potential catastrophe, but had demonstrated a profound truth about security in the modern world. Sometimes, the most effective defense against the most sophisticated threats comes not from advanced technology, but from the extraordinary capabilities of animals who share their gifts through partnership with the humans they trust. As dawn broke over North Point International Airport the following morning, the investigation had entered a new phase. What began as a security anomaly had evolved into a coordinated international operation spanning multiple agencies across 12 countries. The command center, established in the airport's secure conference facility, operated continuously, with teams working in shifts to process the rapidly expanding web of information. Director Lockhart, who had managed to get only 3 hours of sleep in a temporary rest area, reviewed the overnight developments with her core team. Despite the fatigue evident in the faces around the table, a sense of purpose energized their efforts. The stakes had become increasingly clear with each new discovery. What Atlas had prevented was part of something far larger than initially suspected. Overnight, our colleagues in Berlin and Prague secured the components from previous shipments, Wilson reported, displaying photographs on the main screen. Initial analysis confirms they match our intercepted items, with modifications specific to their installation environments. Technical teams are conducting controlled testing to determine precise functionality. The investigation had expanded beyond the immediate security threat to include financial intelligence and law enforcement dimensions. Interpol had established dedicated task forces focused on different aspects of the operation, tracking the missing Heidelberg employees, mapping Zhdanov's extended network, and identifying potential targets based on the technical capabilities of the intercepted system. We've made a significant breakthrough regarding the ultimate destination of our intercepted shipment, announced financial analyst Patel, his normally reserved demeanor animated by the importance of his discovery. The documentation identified Frankfurt Medical Research Institute as the recipient, but our financial analysis revealed a sophisticated series of scheduled transfers that would have diverted the shipment during final delivery. He displayed a complex diagram showing transportation routes and scheduled handoffs. The components would have been redirected to this facility outside Munich, he explained, highlighting a nondescript industrial building. Satellite imagery shows it as a small manufacturing plant supposedly producing laboratory equipment. Who owns the facility? Lockhart asked, leaning forward intently. That's where it gets interesting, Patel replied. On paper, it's owned by a Swiss holding company called Alpenrose Industries. However, when we examined Alpenrose's corporate structure... He paused, clicking to the next slide, which displayed a familiar name in the ownership chain. Gregor Volkov, Lockhart said, recognizing the Russian industrialist with documented connections to both legitimate business enterprises and various criminal organizations. Exactly, Patel confirmed. Volkov's connection is buried under 6 layers of shell companies and holding structures, but it's definitive, and here's the crucial connection. He highlighted another section of the diagram. 3 years ago, Volkov's shipping company briefly employed Viktor Zhdanov as a logistics consultant before Zhdanov's connection to arms dealing became public. This connection between Zhdanov and Volkov represented a significant development. While Zhdanov operated primarily in weapons supply chains, Volkov possessed the international business infrastructure and political connections to orchestrate larger operations. His legitimate business enterprises spanned energy, transportation, and manufacturing sectors across Europe and Asia. We need to understand why Volkov would risk his legitimate business interests by involving himself in weapons smuggling, Lockhart noted, considering the implications. His established operations generate hundreds of millions annually. Why engage in something that could destroy everything if exposed? The question hung in the air, reflecting the central mystery that continued to drive the investigation. The technical sophistication of the intercepted components indicated a significant investment in development and manufacturing. The elaborate smuggling network, involving compromised corporate entities, demonstrated long-term planning and substantial resources. Yet the purpose behind these extensive efforts remained elusive. While senior investigators pursued these high-level connections, the technical analysis of the intercepted components continued to yield crucial insights. Dr. Vassallo had remained on site, her expertise in medical research equipment proving invaluable as forensic teams disassembled and analyzed the sophisticated components. The engineering is remarkable in its adaptability, she explained to the technical assessment team. These systems were designed to be configured for different environments while maintaining the same core functionality. They could be integrated into standard HVAC systems in research facilities, office buildings, or transportation hubs with minimal modification. Rodriguez, leading the technical analysis, added, "What's particularly concerning is the remote activation capability. These components contain advanced communication systems that could receive encrypted activation signals from virtually anywhere in the world. Once triggered, the system would operate autonomously, releasing whatever agent had been loaded into the reservoirs according to programmed parameters." This assessment underscored the potential scale of what had been averted. Had the components reached their destination and been deployed as intended, they could have enabled precisely targeted attacks against specified locations, potentially affecting hundreds or thousands of people depending on the agent used and the deployment setting. While the technical and intelligence investigations expanded, Harding and Atlas had been formally integrated into the operational security structure. Their exceptional contribution had elevated their status from routine security personnel to key assets in the ongoing investigation. Atlas had received a specialized veterinary assessment to ensure his extraordinary detection work hadn't exposed him to harmful substances, while Harding briefed various agency representatives on his partners' capabilities and training. "What makes Atlas different from standard detection dogs?" asked Elizabeth Chambers during a consultation session, seeking to understand how one animal had detected what sophisticated technology had missed. Harding considered the question carefully. Most detection dogs are trained to identify specific substances or categories: explosives, narcotics, currency, electronics. Their training focuses their attention on particular scent signatures associated with those targets. He glanced at Atlas, who lay attentively at his feet. Atlas received that standard training, but also underwent an advanced program developed at Hochfeld that we call anomaly detection. Rather than just identifying known threats, he's trained to alert on anything that deviates significantly from baseline environmental conditions, things that simply don't belong in their surroundings. That still doesn't fully explain how he detected these components, Chambers pressed. They were specifically designed to appear legitimate under inspection. "No, it doesn't," Harding acknowledged candidly. "And that's perhaps the most important point about working with animals like Atlas. Despite our training protocols and scientific understanding, their sensory capabilities sometimes exceed our ability to explain precisely how they function." This intersection of established security protocols with extraordinary canine capabilities reflected a broader theme emerging throughout the investigation. The most effective security approaches integrated technology, human expertise, and biological detection in ways that compensated for the limitations of each individual element. Meanwhile, Captain Mercer and First Officer Reyes had been engaged in a comprehensive review of cargo security protocols with aviation security specialists. Their experience with international flight operations provided valuable context for understanding how the smuggling network had exploited routine procedures. "The system is designed for efficiency with security checkpoints at key transition points," Mercer explained. referencing standard cargo handling procedures. But once shipments establish a pattern of legitimacy, regular movements between established entities with consistent documentation, they naturally receive less intensive scrutiny. It's an unavoidable limitation of high-volume transportation systems, added Reyes. We can't physically inspect every component of every shipment without bringing global commerce to a standstill. This practical reality underscored the sophisticated nature of the operation Atlas had exposed. The smuggling network had deliberately established patterns of legitimate activity before attempting to move the most critical components. They had created documentation that would satisfy standard verification processes and designed equipment that would appear consistent with declared purposes during technological screening. By midday, the investigation reached another crucial juncture. With the identification of a potential target, intelligence analysts had compiled data from multiple sources, including communications intercepted from individuals connected to Volkov's organization and technical assessments of the weapon's components. Capabilities. We believe the Lindauer Convention Center in Munich was the likely initial target, reported senior analyst Rebecca Morrison, displaying architectural plans and event schedules on the main screen. It's hosting the International Security Technology Forum next month, a gathering of government officials, defense contractors, and security technology firms from 37 countries. The significance of this target immediately registered with everyone present. The forum represented a concentration of security expertise and technology development that aligned with both strategic and symbolic objectives for various hostile actors. Attacking security officials with an undetectable chemical or biological agent delivered through their own conference facility, Lockhart began, would demonstrate the vulnerability of even the most security-conscious organizations. Morrison completed. The psychological impact would extend far beyond the immediate casualties. This identification of a potential target shifted the investigation into yet another phase. While evidence collection and network mapping continued, prevention efforts now extended to securing the identified facility and reviewing security for similar gatherings worldwide. The implications extended beyond immediate threat response to fundamental questions about vulnerability assessment in high-security environments. Throughout this evolving investigation, Atlas remained a central figure, the extraordinary animal, whose inexplicable detection abilities had initiated the entire operation. His continued presence at the command center served as a tangible reminder that security ultimately depended on the integration of multiple capabilities: technological systems, human expertise, and the remarkable sensory abilities of animals specifically trained to extend those capabilities. As the investigation expanded to multiple countries, pursuing international criminal networks and sophisticated weapons smuggling operations, the contrast between its global scale and its origin in one dog's alert behavior created a powerful narrative about security in the modern world. The most sophisticated threat had been detected not by advanced technology or intelligence operations, but by a Belgian Malinois whose extraordinary abilities and unwavering focus had revealed what everything else had missed. This reality offered both reassurance and challenge to those responsible for public safety. It demonstrated that despite the technological sophistication of emerging threats, fundamental security partnerships, like those between handlers and detection dogs, maintained their extraordinary value. Yet it also revealed how narrowly catastrophe had been averted, depending on the presence of one exceptional animal at precisely the right moment. As the fifth day since Atlas's discovery began, The full scope of what he had prevented continued to expand. The interconnected nature of the smuggling operation, its sophisticated evasion of standard security protocols, and its apparent connection to established international figures suggested a threat with implications far beyond a single intercepted shipment. What had begun with one dog's refusal to move from the front of an aircraft had unveiled a network that threatened security across multiple countries, a sobering reminder of both vulnerability and the extraordinary resources dedicated to protection. On the third day of the investigation, with operations now spanning continents, the atmosphere at North Point's command center shifted subtly from crisis response to methodical pursuit. Intelligence agencies had deployed field teams across Europe, tracking leads connected to Volkov's organization and securing potential evidence before it could disappear. The technical understanding of the intercepted weapon system had advanced significantly, revealing capabilities even more sophisticated than initially assessed. Director Lockhart convened the morning briefing with representatives from 14 agencies, now participating either in person or through secure video connections. The room hummed with focused energy as specialists from different disciplines integrated their findings into a comprehensive operational picture. Overnight, the Munich facility identified as the potential equipment destination was secured and searched, reported Werner Krauss, the Interpol coordinator. While the building contained legitimate laboratory equipment manufacturing operations, investigators discovered a secured sublevel not included in official building plans. Images appeared on the main screen, showing a sophisticated laboratory space concealed beneath the manufacturing facility. Unlike the legitimate operation above, this hidden facility contained specialized equipment for handling hazardous biological and chemical materials, including sealed workstations and advanced containment systems. Preliminary testing detected trace elements consistent with several restricted biological compounds, Krauss continued. Analysis continues, but initial assessment suggests capabilities for weaponizing these compounds through aerosol delivery systems, precisely matching the functionality of our intercepted components. This discovery confirmed the lethal intentions behind the smuggling operation. What Atlas had detected wasn't merely prohibited technology, but key elements of a system designed to deliver biological weapons against specifically targeted locations. The scale and sophistication indicated state-level resources applied to a precision attack capability rather than mass destruction. We've also identified what appears to be the Operational Planning Center, added Elizabeth Chambers, displaying photographs of a secured communications room within the hidden facility. Technical teams are working to recover data from the encrypted systems, but even the physical evidence provides significant intelligence value. The communications setup featured multiple redundant systems, specialized encryption equipment, and independent power sources. Infrastructure reflecting professional intelligence operation standards rather than typical criminal enterprise capabilities. This sophistication raised critical questions about potential state involvement beyond the identified commercial entities. The evidence increasingly suggests Volkov's organization served as a corporate facade for a state-sponsored operation, Chambers assessed. The technical sophistication, financial resources, and operational security measures exceed typical non-state capabilities. This assessment sparked intense discussion among the intelligence representatives. If a state actor had orchestrated the operation using corporate entities and criminal networks as cutouts, the implications extended far beyond conventional law enforcement to matters of international security and diplomatic relations. While senior officials grappled with these high-level implications, the operational teams continued their painstaking work assembling evidence and mapping network connections. Financial analysts traced funding flows through labyrinthine corporate structures. Technical specialists analyzed manufacturing signatures to identify production facilities, and intelligence officers developed profiles of key personnel connected to the operation. Throughout this intensive investigation, Atlas had become something of a silent celebrity among the multinational teams. Professional security personnel who had dedicated careers to technological and intelligence-based detection methods found themselves drawn to the Belgian Malinois, who had accomplished what their sophisticated systems could not. Many sought opportunities to observe the remarkable dog in training sessions Harding conducted to maintain his partner's skills during their extended assignment to the investigation. During one such session, in a secured area of the airport complex, Atlas demonstrated his detection capabilities for a small group of technical specialists. Harding had prepared a series of test scenarios, hiding various training aids representing different substances among ordinary objects. Without verbal commands, Atlas systematically searched the area, his movements displaying the focused efficiency that characterized elite detection dogs. When he located a target, Atlas performed his passive alert, sitting perfectly still, his attention locked on the detected item without touching or disturbing it. The precision of his detection and the clarity of his alerts impressed even the most technology-oriented observers. "How long does this level of training take?" asked Mahmoud, the weapons systems specialist who had analyzed the intercepted components. "Atlas began his basic training at 8 weeks old," Harding explained, rewarding his partner with his special toy after completing the demonstration. The foundation work took about 9 months, followed by specialized detection training for another 6. But the advanced anomaly detection capabilities, the skills that enabled him to identify the disguised components, those required nearly 2 additional years of progressive development. "So approximately 3 years to develop these capabilities," Mahmoud calculated. "For Atlas, yes," Harding confirmed, watching his partner engage in a brief play session, his reward for successful work. "But he's exceptional even among working dogs. Most wouldn't reach this level of discrimination and reliability regardless of training duration. There's something innate in certain dogs, a combination of sensory acuity, focus, and problem-solving ability that amplifies what training can accomplish." This recognition of exceptional capability extended beyond Atlas to the entire concept of biological detection in security operations. Throughout the command center, discussions increasingly acknowledged the complementary relationship between technological systems and trained animals, not as competing approaches, but as integrated capabilities addressing different dimensions of evolving threats. Meanwhile, the intelligence dimension of the investigation had yielded another significant breakthrough. Facial recognition technology had identified one of Heidelberg's compromised employees at a remote border crossing between Hungary and Ukraine, a crucial lead in tracking the operational elements of the network. Markov Laszlo, quality control supervisor at Heidelberg for the past 14 months, Wilson reported, displaying the border crossing image alongside Laszlo's employee identification photograph. "Hungarian authorities have detained him based on our alert. Initial questioning suggests he's a relatively minor player, technical expertise without operational knowledge." "What's his background?" asked Lockhart, studying the unremarkable-looking man whose position had enabled a critical component of the smuggling operation. "Former research technician with legitimate qualifications in materials science," Wilson replied. "Financial analysis shows he began receiving payments through offshore accounts approximately 18 months ago, modest amounts that progressively increased as the operation developed. So they recruited him, tested his reliability with Smaller tasks then positioned him specifically at Heidelberg to facilitate the component modifications, summarized Lockhart, classic intelligence recruitment pattern. This identification of a human link in the operational chain created opportunities for working backward to the organizational leadership. While Laszlo likely had limited knowledge of the broader operation, his communications, financial connections, and technical work provided valuable threads for investigators to pursue. While the investigation expanded across multiple dimensions, Dr. Vassallo had made a critical discovery regarding the technical sophistication of the intercepted components. Having spent nearly 48 continuous hours analyzing the systems, she had identified a design signature that pointed toward a specific developer. These circuit configurations match documented work by Stefan Reichert, she reported, displaying comparative schematics during a technical briefing. He's a former biomedical engineer who specialized in micro-delivery systems for precision pharmaceuticals before disappearing from academic circles approximately 3 years ago. The identification of Reichert represented a significant advancement in understanding the weapons systems development. His expertise in designing systems for delivering precise biological compounds to specific cellular targets would have been directly applicable to creating the intercepted components, transforming medical technology for lethal purposes. Do we have any indication of Reichert's current location? Asked Rodriguez, recognizing the importance of this connection. His last confirmed location was a research symposium in Geneva, Dr. Vassallo replied. After that, his academic appointments were terminated due to unexplained absences. His banking activities ceased, social media accounts became dormant, and professional affiliations lapsed. Classic indications of someone deliberately disappearing or being disappeared. This technical signature provided another investigative avenue, connecting the physical components to human expertise that could be tracked through various intelligence methods. The picture continued to develop across multiple dimensions: financial, technical, operational, and human. Each thread reinforcing the understanding of what Atlas had detected and what might have occurred had the components reached their destination. By the evening briefing, the collective investigation had assembled enough elements to present a comprehensive assessment of the operation's scale and purpose. Director Lockhart stood before representatives from all participating agencies, the exhaustion of 3 intensive days visible but overshadowed by professional determination. Based on our collective findings, we can now state with high confidence that the components intercepted at North Point were elements of a sophisticated biological weapons delivery system, she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the assessment. The system was designed to be deployed at high-profile gatherings of security officials and technology developers, with potential targeting extended to multiple locations beyond the initially identified Munich conference. The screen behind her displayed a map of Europe with multiple locations highlighted, each representing secured facilities, scheduled events, or transportation hubs that aligned with the operational capabilities of the intercepted system. Technical analysis indicates capabilities for precisely targeted biological agent delivery, designed to create casualties within specified parameters while minimizing broader contamination risks. This precision targeting suggests objectives beyond mass casualties, likely focused on eliminating specific expertise or disrupting particular security capabilities. This assessment reflected the disturbing sophistication of what had been planned, not indiscriminate terrorism, but precisely targeted elimination of security capabilities through attacks on the human expertise that developed and implemented them. The strategic implications extended beyond immediate casualties to long-term impacts on security technology development and implementation. Financial and intelligence analysis increasingly points towards state sponsorship, utilizing commercial and criminal networks as operational covers. Lockhart continued, while we continue to develop conclusive attribution, the technical sophistication, resource requirements, and strategic objectives all indicate capabilities beyond conventional, non-state actors. Throughout her briefing, Lockhart emphasized the collective nature of the investigation, the integration of different agencies, specialties, and capabilities that had transformed one dog's alert into a comprehensive exposure of an international weapons smuggling operation. This collaborative success represented something significant beyond the immediate security threat, a demonstration that diverse capabilities could be effectively integrated against sophisticated threats that no single approach could address alone. As the third day of intensive investigation concluded, attention increasingly turned toward recognizing the extraordinary starting point of their collective efforts. While hundreds of professionals across multiple agencies had contributed to developing the full operational picture, none of it would have occurred without Atlas's inexplicable detection of the disguised components. In the specialized world of security operations, where advanced technology and sophisticated intelligence methods dominated strategic planning, the Belgian Malinois had demonstrated something profound about the enduring value of capabilities that couldn't be replicated through technology alone. His extraordinary sensory acuity, coupled with training that developed his natural abilities to their fullest potential, had accomplished what billions of dollars of security infrastructure had missed, detecting a threat specifically designed to exploit the limitations of technological screening. This recognition extended beyond mere appreciation for one remarkable dog to a broader acknowledgement of how comprehensive security required integration of diverse capabilities, technological systems, human expertise, and biological detection, working in coordinated partnership rather than as competing approaches. The most sophisticated threats, designed specifically to exploit the known parameters of security systems, could sometimes be detected only through capabilities that operated on fundamentally different principles. As Atlas rested beside Harding, in their temporary quarters that evening, the Belgian Malinois remained unaware of the international operation he had initiated or the potential catastrophe he had averted. For him, the extraordinary alert that had stopped a plane and launched an international investigation had simply been another moment of doing what he was trained to do, identifying something that didn't belong and maintaining focus until his human partners understood its significance. In that simple commitment to his purpose, untroubled by the complexity that followed, lay perhaps the most profound security lesson of all. Sometimes the most effective response to evolving threats came not from ever more complex technological systems, but from the focused application of capabilities as old as the ancient partnership between humans and the animals who shared their extraordinary gifts through bonds of training and trust. On the fourth morning of the investigation, unprecedented developments emerged that transformed what had begun as a security incident into an international diplomatic crisis. Intelligence agencies had pieced together enough evidence to present a confidential assessment to their respective governments, indicating state sponsorship of the weapons smuggling operation. While public statements remained cautiously worded, behind secured doors, serious diplomatic repercussions were already unfolding. At North Point International Airport, the command center continued to serve as the technical hub of the investigation, though much of the operational activity had shifted to field teams pursuing leads across multiple countries. Director Lockhart began the morning briefing with news that reflected the investigation's escalating significance. I've just been informed that the Secretary of State has convened an emergency meeting with counterparts from allied nations, she announced to the assembled team leaders. The evidence we've assembled is now informing diplomatic exchanges at the highest levels of government. This development highlighted how rapidly the case had evolved, from a single dog's alert behavior to matters of international security policy in less than a week. The intelligence assessment, pointing towards state-sponsored biological weapons development, had elevated the situation beyond law enforcement to matters of national security and international relations. While those discussions proceed at diplomatic levels, our operational priorities remain unchanged, Lockhart continued, maintaining focus on the technical and intelligence work still underway. We need to identify any remaining components already in circulation, secure potential target locations, and continue mapping the operational network. The investigation had reached a phase where multiple parallel efforts progressed simultaneously, securing potential targets, pursuing network participants, analyzing technical capabilities, and supporting diplomatic and policy responses. Each element required specialized expertise, yet all depended on effective information sharing across traditional organizational boundaries. Among these ongoing efforts, the technical analysis led by Rodriguez and Dr. Vassallo had yielded another significant breakthrough. After days of examining the intercepted components through increasingly sophisticated methods, they had identified a manufacturing signature that provided crucial geographic origin information. These microprocessors contain unique fabrication, characteristics consistent with production at the Novaya Advanced Systems facility outside St. Petersburg, Rodriguez explained, displaying microscopic imagery highlighting the distinctive production patterns. The fabrication methodology matches documented samples from this facility with 97% confidence. This technical evidence provided the most direct connection yet to potential state involvement, as Novaya operated under direct oversight of Russian military intelligence, while plausible deniability remained through the complex network of commercial entities and cutouts like Volkov. The technical signature created a forensic trail that couldn't be easily dismissed. Meanwhile, the operational dimension of the investigation had expanded to include comprehensive security reviews at potential target locations. Based on technical analysis of the weapons system capabilities and intelligence assessment of likely objectives, security teams were conducting vulnerability assessments at major international conferences, research facilities, and government installations across Europe and North America. We've implemented enhanced screening protocols at 37 priority locations, reported Joshua Bennett, the Department of Homeland Security representative coordinating the protection response. This includes expanded K9 detection teams, specifically briefed on the signature characteristics identified from our intercepted components. This expansion of K9 detection represented perhaps the most significant operational adaptation resulting from Atlas's discovery. Security planners had recognized that while technological screening remained essential, detection dogs offered capabilities specifically suited to identifying the disguised components that might otherwise evade standard protocols. Across the Atlantic, FBI teams had executed search warrants at the American offices of Meridian Global Logistics, securing documentation and digital records connected to the shipping network Atlas had exposed. Preliminary examination had revealed communication patterns with Heidelberg Precision that aligned precisely with the timeline of the compromised equipment movements. We're seeing clear evidence of coordination between supposedly distinct corporate entities, reported FBI Special Agent Renee Washington during the secure video briefing. Email communications show Meridian's shipping supervisors were receiving specific handling instructions for certain containers from accounts linked to the compromised Heidelberg employees. These developments across multiple investigative fronts reflected the comprehensive response stimulated by Atlas's initial detection. Each new discovery reinforced the understanding that the Belgian Malinois had exposed not just a single smuggling attempt, but an extensive operation with implications for international security. While these high-level investigations proceeded, Harding and Atlas had maintained their integration with the operation in a capacity that evolved significantly from their initial security role. Beyond providing continued technical consultation regarding Atlas's detection capabilities, they had begun working with specialized training teams to develop protocols for identifying similar disguise components at security checkpoints worldwide. The challenge is replicating Atlas's detection capabilities in operational contexts where we don't have dogs with his specific training, Harding explained during a consultation session with security planners. We need to identify the specific signature elements he's responding to and develop focused training protocols that other detection teams can implement quickly. This effort represented a crucial knowledge transfer, attempting to distill Atlas's extraordinary detection capabilities into training methodologies that could be deployed through existing security infrastructure. The process involved carefully controlled exposures to secured components under varying conditions, documenting precisely which elements triggered Atlas's alert behavior. We believe he's detecting a combination of materials used in the specialized circuitry coating, explained Mahmoud, who had joined the training analysis team. The compounds used to prevent corrosion while allowing thermal management have a subtle but distinct chemical signature unlike standard commercial electronics. This technical understanding provided a foundation for developing focused training protocols that could be distributed to K9 units worldwide, a practical application of the lessons learned through Atlas's remarkable detection. Rather than depending on encountering another dog with his extraordinary capabilities, security agencies could now implement specific training targeting the identified signature components. While this operational adaptation proceeded, another dimension of response was developing through media and public education channels. Although specific details of the weapons system remained classified, security agencies had recognized the importance of acknowledging Atlas's contribution while educating the public about security partnerships between humans and working dogs. Northpoint's public affairs team, working with counterparts from multiple agencies, had developed a carefully crafted narrative highlighting the extraordinary capabilities of detection dogs without revealing classified technical details. This approach served multiple purposes: recognizing Atlas's contribution, educating the public about security measures, and potentially deterring similar smuggling attempts by demonstrating successful detection. The story has resonated powerfully across traditional and social media platforms, reported communications specialist Maya Johnson, displaying analytics from various platforms. The public responds particularly strongly to the partnership element, the bond between handler and dog that enabled this detection. This public dimension reflected broader themes emerging throughout the investigation: the integration of diverse capabilities, the importance of trusting specialized expertise, and the enduring value of security approaches that couldn't be replicated through technology alone. Atlas had become not just an operational asset, but a powerful symbol of security partnerships that transcended organizational boundaries and methodological preferences. 7 days after Atlas's remarkable alert behavior had stopped a plane from departing, the Director of National Intelligence convened a classified briefing for congressional leadership regarding the weapons smuggling operation and its broader international implications. While the detailed assessment remains classified, the public summary acknowledged an extraordinary detection by airport security personnel that exposed a sophisticated international weapons smuggling network with significant national security implications. This high-level recognition reached North Point through official channels, though the public statement maintained appropriate operational security by not specifically identifying Atlas or the nature of the intercepted components. Director Lockhart shared this acknowledgement during the final briefing at the Airport Command Center, before operations transitioned to permanent intelligence and law enforcement channels. This case will continue through intelligence, diplomatic, and law enforcement dimensions for months, if not years, she noted, addressing the multinational team assembled for the transition briefing. But as we conclude the immediate response phase, it's appropriate to acknowledge what initiated this entire operation: the extraordinary capabilities of one Belgian Malinois and his handler who trusted his alert behavior despite contradictory technological assessment. She turned toward where Harding and Atlas sat at the edge of the briefing area, the shepherd attentive but relaxed beside his handler. In security operations, we often focus on technological solutions to emerging threats. We invest billions in advanced screening systems, artificial intelligence applications, and integrated databases. All of these remain essential tools. But Atlas reminded us of something profound about security fundamentals, she continued. Sometimes our most effective capabilities come not from our most advanced technologies, but from partnerships built on thousands of years of evolution and strengthened through rigorous training. The extraordinary bond between handlers and detection dogs, whose sensory capabilities sometimes exceed our ability to fully explain or replicate. This acknowledgement represented not just recognition of one dog's remarkable accomplishment, but a broader validation of security approaches that integrated diverse capabilities rather than prioritizing technology at the expense of biological detection. Atlas had demonstrated that comprehensive security required both advanced systems working alongside capabilities that operated on fundamentally different principles. As the command center began transitioning to standard operations, with various agency representatives returning to their permanent assignments, Harding received official notification that he and Atlas would be returning to routine security duties. At North Point, albeit with a significantly expanded advisory role in detection protocols and training methodologies. "Back to regular patrols tomorrow, boy," he told his partner as they walked through the terminal that evening, the busy flow of travelers having returned to normal operations after the disruption of the previous week. "Though I suspect nothing will seem quite regular again after what you started." Atlas padded alongside his handler with professional focus, alert to their surroundings, yet comfortable in the familiar environment of the terminal they had patrolled countless times before. Despite the extraordinary events his detection had initiated, the international investigation, the diplomatic repercussions, the enhanced security protocols implemented across multiple countries, Atlas approached his duties with the same focused dedication that characterized his work before becoming the center of an international security operation. This consistency perhaps represented the most profound aspect of the entire remarkable sequence of events. From Atlas's perspective, stopping before the aircraft to alert on the disguised components hadn't been an extraordinary act requiring special recognition or reward beyond his normal training reinforcement. He had simply detected something that didn't belong and maintained focus until his human partners understood its significance, exactly what his training had prepared him to do. In that simple commitment to purpose, detecting what was wrong and communicating it effectively, lay the essence of security partnerships that transcended sophisticated technology and complex protocols. Atlas had demonstrated that sometimes The most effective response to the most sophisticated threats came not from increasingly complex technological systems, but from the focused application of natural capabilities developed through partnership with the humans who valued and trusted them. As the evening sun cast long shadows through North Point's soaring terminal windows, Atlas continued his vigilant patrol alongside Harding, an ordinary working dog performing extraordinary service. Through capabilities that had proven irreplaceable in protecting countless lives from threats designed specifically to evade detection. His legacy would extend far beyond this single remarkable discovery to influence security protocols and detection methodologies for years to come, all because one Belgian Malinois refused to move from the front of a plane until humans understood what he already knew. On the fourth morning of the investigation, unprecedented developments emerged that transformed what had begun as a security incident into an international diplomatic crisis. Intelligence agencies had pieced together enough evidence to present a confidential assessment to their respective governments, indicating state sponsorship of the weapons smuggling operation. While public statements remained cautiously worded, behind secured doors, serious diplomatic repercussions were already unfolding. At North Point International Airport, the command center continued to serve as the technical hub of the investigation, though much of the operational activity had shifted to field teams pursuing leads across multiple countries. Director Lockhart began the morning briefing with news that reflected the investigation's escalating significance. "I've just been informed that the Secretary of State has convened an emergency meeting with counterparts from allied nations," she announced to the assembled team leaders. "The evidence we've assembled is now informing diplomatic exchanges at the highest levels of government." This development highlighted how rapidly the case had evolved from a single dog's alert behavior to matters of international security policy in less than a week. The intelligence assessment, pointing towards state-sponsored biological weapons development, had elevated the situation beyond law enforcement to matters of national security and international relations. While those discussions proceed at diplomatic levels, our operational priorities remain unchanged, Lockhart continued, maintaining focus on the technical and intelligence work still underway. "We need to identify any remaining components already in circulation, secure potential target locations, and continue mapping the operational network." The investigation had reached a phase where multiple parallel efforts progressed simultaneously. Securing potential targets, pursuing network participants, analyzing technical capabilities, and supporting diplomatic and policy responses. Each element required specialized expertise, yet all depended on effective information sharing across traditional organizational boundaries. Among these ongoing efforts, the technical analysis led by Rodriguez and Dr. Vassallo had yielded another significant breakthrough. After days of examining the intercepted components through increasingly sophisticated methods, they had identified a manufacturing signature that provided crucial geographic origin information. These microprocessors contain unique fabrication characteristics consistent with production at the Novaya Advanced Systems facility outside St. Petersburg, Rodriguez explained, displaying microscopic imagery highlighting the distinctive production patterns. The fabrication methodology matches documented samples from this facility with 97% confidence. This technical evidence provided the most direct connection yet to potential state involvement, as Novaya operated under direct oversight of Russian military intelligence. While plausible deniability remained through the complex network of commercial entities and cutouts like Volkov, the technical signature created a forensic trail that couldn't be easily dismissed. Meanwhile, the operational dimension of the investigation had expanded to include comprehensive security reviews at potential target locations. Based on technical analysis of the weapon system, capabilities and intelligence assessment of likely objectives, security teams were conducting vulnerability assessments at major international conferences, research facilities, and government installations across Europe and North America. We've implemented enhanced screening protocols at 37 priority locations, reported Joshua Bennett, the Department of Homeland Security representative coordinating the protection response. This includes expanded canine detection teams, specifically briefed on the signature characteristics identified from our intercepted components. This expansion of canine detection represented perhaps the most significant operational adaptation resulting from Atlas's discovery. Security planners had recognized that while technological screening remained essential, detection dogs offered capabilities specifically suited to identifying the disguised components that might otherwise evade standard protocols. Across the Atlantic, FBI teams had executed search warrants at the American offices of Meridian Global Logistics, securing documentation and digital records connected to the shipping network Atlas had exposed. Preliminary examination had revealed communication patterns with Heidelberg precision that aligned precisely with the timeline of the compromised equipment movements. We're seeing clear evidence of coordination between supposedly distinct corporate entities, reported FBI Special Agent Renee Washington during the secure video briefing. Email communications show Meridian's shipping supervisors were receiving specific handling instructions for certain containers from accounts linked to the compromised Heidelberg employees. These developments across multiple investigative fronts reflected the comprehensive response stimulated by Atlas's initial detection. Each new discovery reinforced the understanding that the Belgian Malinois had exposed not just a single smuggling attempt, but an extensive operation with implications for international security. While these high-level investigations proceeded, Harding and Atlas had maintained their integration with the operation in a capacity that evolved significantly from their initial security role. Beyond providing continued technical consultation regarding Atlas's detection capabilities, they had begun working with specialized training teams to develop protocols for identifying similar disguised components at security checkpoints worldwide. The challenge is replicating Atlas's detection capabilities in operational contexts where we don't have dogs with his specific training, Harding explained during a consultation session with security planners. We need to identify the specific signature elements he's responding to and develop focused training protocols that other detection teams can implement quickly. This effort represented a crucial knowledge transfer, attempting to distill Atlas's extraordinary detection capabilities into training methodologies that could be deployed through existing security infrastructure. The process involved carefully controlled exposures to secured components under varying conditions, documenting precisely which elements triggered Atlas's alert behavior. We believe he's detecting a combination of materials used in the specialized circuitry coating, explained Mahmoud, who had joined the training analysis team. The compounds used to prevent corrosion while allowing thermal management have a subtle but distinct chemical signature unlike standard commercial electronics. This technical understanding provided a foundation for developing focused training protocols that could be distributed to K9 units worldwide, a practical application of the lessons learned through Atlas's remarkable detection. Rather than depending on encountering another dog with his extraordinary capabilities, security agencies could now implement specific training targeting the identified signature components. While this operational adaptation proceeded, another dimension of response was developing through media and public education channels. Although specific details of the weapon system remained classified, security agencies had recognized the importance of acknowledging Atlas's contribution while educating the public about security partnerships between humans and working dogs. North Point's public affairs team, working with counterparts from multiple agencies, had developed a carefully crafted narrative highlighting the extraordinary capabilities of detection dogs without revealing classified technical details. This approach served multiple purposes: recognizing Atlas's contribution, educating the public about security measures, and potentially deterring similar smuggling attempts by demonstrating successful detection. The story has resonated powerfully across traditional and social media platforms, reported communications specialist Maya Johnson, displaying analytics from various platforms. The public responds particularly strongly to the partnership element, the bond between handler and dog, that enabled this detection. This public dimension reflected broader themes emerging throughout the investigation: the integration of diverse capabilities, the importance of trusting specialized expertise, and the enduring value of security approaches that couldn't be replicated through technology alone. Atlas had become not just an operational asset, but a powerful symbol of security partnerships that transcended organizational boundaries and methodological preferences. 7 days after Atlas's remarkable alert behavior had stopped a plane from departing, the Director of National Intelligence convened a classified briefing for congressional leadership regarding the weapons smuggling operation and its broader international implications. While the detailed assessment remains classified, the public summary acknowledged an extraordinary detection by airport security personnel that exposed a sophisticated international weapons smuggling network with significant national security implications. This high-level recognition reached North Point through official channels, though the public statement maintained appropriate operational security by not specifically identifying Atlas or the nature of the intercepted components. Director Lockhart shared this acknowledgement during the final briefing at the Airport Command Center before operations transitioned to permanent intelligence and law enforcement channels. This case will continue through intelligence, diplomatic, and law enforcement dimensions for months, if not years, she noted, addressing the multinational team assembled for the transition briefing. But as we conclude the immediate response phase, it's appropriate to acknowledge what initiated this entire operation: the extraordinary capabilities of one Belgian Malinois and his handler who trusted his alert behavior despite contradictory technological assessment. She turned toward where Harding and Atlas sat at the edge of the briefing area, the shepherd attentive but relaxed beside his handler. In security operations, we often focus on technological solutions to emerging threats. We invest billions in advanced screening systems, artificial intelligence applications, and integrated databases. All of these remain essential tools. But Atlas reminded us of something profound about security fundamentals, she continued. Sometimes our most effective capabilities come not from our most advanced technologies, but from partnerships built on thousands of years of evolution and strengthened through rigorous training, the extraordinary bond between handlers and detection. Dogs, whose sensory capabilities sometimes exceed our ability to fully explain or replicate. This acknowledgement represented not just recognition of one dog's remarkable accomplishment, but a broader validation of security approaches that integrated diverse capabilities rather than prioritizing technology at the expense of biological detection. Atlas had demonstrated that comprehensive security required both advanced systems working alongside capabilities that operated on fundamentally different principles. As the command center began transitioning to standard operations, with various agency representatives returning to their permanent assignments, Harding received official notification that he and Atlas would be returning to routine security duties. At North Point, albeit with a significantly expanded advisory role in detection protocols and training methodologies. "Back to regular patrols tomorrow, boy," he told his partner as they walked through the terminal that evening, the busy flow of travelers having returned to normal operations after the disruption of the previous week. "Though I suspect nothing will seem quite regular again after what you started." Atlas padded alongside his handler with professional focus, alert to their surroundings, yet comfortable in the familiar environment of the terminal they had patrolled countless times before. Despite the extraordinary events his detection had initiated, the international investigation, the diplomatic repercussions, the enhanced security protocols implemented across multiple countries, Atlas approached his duties with the same focused dedication that characterized his work before becoming the center of an international security operation. This consistency perhaps represented the most profound aspect of the entire remarkable sequence of events. From Atlas's perspective, stopping before the aircraft to alert on the disguised components hadn't been an extraordinary act requiring special recognition or reward beyond his normal training reinforcement. He had simply detected something that didn't belong and maintained focus until his human partners understood its significance, exactly what his training had prepared him to do. In that simple commitment to purpose, detecting what was wrong and communicating it effectively, lay the essence of security partnerships that transcended sophisticated technology and complex protocols. Atlas had demonstrated that sometimes the most effective response to the most sophisticated threats came not from increasingly complex technological systems, but from the focused application of natural capabilities developed through partnership with the humans who valued and trusted them. As the evening sun cast long shadows through North Point's soaring terminal windows, Atlas continued his vigilant patrol alongside Harding, an ordinary working dog performing extraordinary service through capabilities that had proven irreplaceable in protecting countless lives from threats designed specifically to evade detection. His legacy would extend far beyond this single remarkable discovery to influence security protocols and detection methodologies for years to come. All because one Belgian Malinois refused to move from the front of a plane until humans understood what he already knew. 2 weeks after Atlas's extraordinary alert had initiated the international security operation, the ripple effects of his detection continued to spread through security practices worldwide, while the diplomatic and intelligence dimensions proceeded. Through classified channels, the operational security community had embraced the lessons learned with remarkable speed and commitment. At North Point International Airport, Atlas and Harding had returned to their regular patrol duties with a subtle but significant difference. Security personnel throughout the facility now regarded the Belgian Malinois with a new level of professional respect. The dog, who had once been simply part of the routine security infrastructure, was now recognized as the extraordinary detector who had accomplished what advanced technology could not. This shift in perception extended beyond mere admiration to practical, operational changes. When Atlas alerted on anything, even items that seemed innocuous by standard assessment, security protocols now required comprehensive verification rather than cursory confirmation. His detection capabilities had earned a level of institutional trust that translated into enhanced security procedures. Atlas has identified a package in Terminal C requiring secondary screening, Harding reported through his communication system, during a routine morning patrol. Though the alert involved what appeared to be a standard shipping container with appropriate documentation, the response reflected the new protocols implemented since the weapons components incident. Within minutes, specialized screening teams arrived with advanced detection equipment to conduct comprehensive verification. The package, containing specialized laboratory equipment for a medical research facility, proved legitimate after thorough examination, Yet the response demonstrated how fundamentally Atlas's extraordinary detection had transformed standard security operations. 2 months ago, standard screening would have cleared this immediately, noted Raymond Chen, the supervisor, who had witnessed Atlas's original alert behavior. Now we verify everything a detection dog identifies, regardless of documentation or preliminary screening results. That's the Atlas protocol in action. The Atlas protocol had emerged as informal terminology among security personnel at North Point, before being adopted as the official designation for enhanced verification procedures following canine alerts. The protocol had already spread beyond North Point to aviation security operations worldwide, implemented through international aviation security networks that recognized the significance of what Atlas had demonstrated. Beyond immediate operational changes, Atlas's detection had catalyzed broader transformations throughout security practices across multiple sectors. The Transportation Security Administration had initiated a comprehensive review of cargo screening procedures with particular focus on how specialized detection dogs could be integrated more effectively with technological screening systems. What Atlas demonstrated wasn't just the detection of one specific threat, explained TSA Administrator Gloria Martinez during a briefing with aviation security directors. He revealed a fundamental vulnerability in how we conceptualize security. Screening, the assumption that technology alone can identify sophisticated threats specifically designed to evade detection. This recognition had prompted the development of new integrated screening approaches that combined technological systems with enhanced biological detection capabilities. Rather than treating these as separate or competing methodologies, security planners increasingly recognized their complementary strengths and limitations. The implications extended far beyond aviation to encompass security operations throughout critical infrastructure, government facilities, and high-profile public events. Organizations that had previously invested primarily in technological screening systems now reconsidered the role of specialized detection dogs, particularly in contexts involving sophisticated threats or adversaries with access to advanced technical capabilities. Perhaps the most significant operational development emerged through international security cooperation initiatives. The Integrated Detection Enhancement Program, established through multilateral security agreements following the weapons components incident, created standardized training protocols and certification processes for advanced detection dogs based directly on Atlas's demonstrated capabilities. The program represents an unprecedented level of international cooperation in biological detection, explained Interpol's Werner Krauss during the program's implementation briefing. Participating nations are sharing specialized training methodologies, detection dog breeding programs, and handler certification standards to raise collective capabilities against sophisticated threats. This international cooperation extended beyond government agencies to include private security operations, protecting critical infrastructure and transportation systems worldwide. Corporate security directors, who had previously focused investments on technological solutions, increasingly recognized the unique value of well-trained detection dogs in identifying threats designed to exploit the known parameters of technical screening systems. While operational security adaptations progressed, Atlas had become something of a symbol within professional security communities, representing not just extraordinary detection capabilities, but a broader philosophy about integrated approaches to evolving threats. His image appeared in training materials, security conferences featured case studies about his detection, and security publications analyzed the implications of what he had accomplished. Atlas reminds us of something fundamental about security. In an increasingly technological age, wrote Dr. Sarah Lieberman, director of the Advanced Security Studies program at Georgetown University, in a widely circulated analysis. As threats become more sophisticated, our most effective defense often combines our most advanced technologies with our oldest partnerships, the extraordinary capabilities of animals whose senses and instincts complement our technical systems in ways we cannot replicate through technology alone. This philosophical dimension reflected growing recognition that comprehensive security required diverse capabilities integrated through effective partnerships rather than reliance on any single approach. Atlas had demonstrated that even the most sophisticated technological screening could be defeated by threats specifically designed to exploit its parameters, while biological detection operating on fundamentally different principles might identify what technology missed. At North Point, Harding had received numerous invitations to speak at security conferences about Atlas's capabilities and their partnership. While maintaining appropriate operational security regarding classified aspects of the weapons components case, he provided valuable insights about detection dog training, handler-canine partnerships, and the integration of biological detection with technological screening. The most important lesson from our experience isn't about choosing between technology and biological detection, he explained during a presentation to international aviation security directors. It's about understanding that different detection methodologies have different strengths and vulnerabilities. Comprehensive security comes from integrating these approaches so the strengths of each compensate for the limitations of others. This perspective increasingly influenced security planning across governmental and private sectors, with organizations re-evaluating how they structured detection capabilities against sophisticated threats. The binary thinking that had often characterized security debates, pitting technological solutions against traditional methods, gave way to more integrated approaches, recognizing the complementary nature of diverse security elements. Meanwhile, Atlas continued his daily duties with the same focused dedication that had characterized his work before international recognition. The Belgian Malinois responded to the enhanced attention with professional indifference, approaching each detection assignment with the same methodical thoroughness, whether it involved routine patrols or specialized screening of high-priority items. He has no concept of the international policies he's influenced or the security practices he's transformed, Harding noted during a specialized training session with security officials observing Atlas's detection techniques. For him, each alert is simply about identifying something that doesn't belong and communicating that assessment to his human partners. This straightforward commitment to purpose carried its own profound lesson for security professionals accustomed to increasingly complex technological systems and elaborate procedural frameworks. Atlas approached each detection situation with focused attention to the immediate environment, untroubled by broader contexts or significance beyond identifying anomalies that required human attention. The simplicity of this approach contrasted with the sophisticated technological systems that had failed to detect the disguised weapons components, where advanced scanning technologies operated within program parameters that skilled adversaries could analyze and exploit. Atlas relied on sensory capabilities and pattern recognition that functioned according to evolutionary principles rather than engineered specifications. This fundamental difference in detection methodology had proven decisive in identifying components specifically designed to defeat technological screening. The weapons smuggling network had studied and exploited the parameters of aviation security, screening technology, creating disguised components that matched the signatures of legitimate equipment under standard inspection protocols. What they couldn't anticipate or counteract was a Belgian Malinois whose extraordinary sensory acuity detected subtle anomalies that fell outside established detection parameters, capabilities that couldn't be deceived through technical specifications, because they operated according to different principles entirely. 3 weeks after the intercepted shipment had been secured, the operational elements of the investigation had largely transitioned to intelligence and law enforcement channels, focused on tracking the broader network Atlas had exposed. While these efforts continued through classified channels, their foundations rested on the extraordinary detection that had initiated the entire international response. At North Point, a small ceremony recognized Atlas's contribution while maintaining appropriate operational security regarding classified aspects of the case. The airport's director presented Harding with a commendation acknowledging their exceptional contribution to aviation security through specialized detection capabilities that identified a significant security threat. The carefully worded recognition revealed nothing about the nature of the intercepted components or the international investigation that followed. Yet for those who understood the full context, it represented appropriate acknowledgement of how one dog's extraordinary capabilities had potentially saved countless lives by exposing a sophisticated weapons smuggling operation designed to evade technological detection. For Atlas, the ceremony held meaning only through Harding's evident pride and the special reward session that followed, extended play with his favorite training toy, and enthusiastic recognition from his handler. The Belgian Malinois processed the experience not through human frameworks of achievement and recognition, but through the immediate reinforcement of the bond with his handler that formed the foundation of their working partnership. In this straightforward response to recognition lay perhaps the most profound security lesson Atlas had demonstrated throughout the extraordinary sequence of events his detection had initiated. Beyond specific technical capabilities or procedural adaptations, he had reminded security professionals across multiple disciplines about the fundamental importance of purpose, focus, and partnership in addressing sophisticated threats in an increasingly complex security environment. As evening fell across North Point International Airport, Atlas continued his patrol alongside Harding, moving through the terminal with the same vigilant attention that had characterized his work before. International recognition. For him, security remained not a matter of complex systems or elaborate protocols, but the straightforward process of detecting what didn't belong and maintaining focus until humans understood its significance. A simple commitment to purpose that had proven more effective against a sophisticated threat than billions of dollars of advanced technology. In security operations centers, government facilities, and critical infrastructure worldwide, this lesson continued to influence how organizations approached protection against evolving threats. Not by choosing between technological and biological detection, but by integrating these complementary capabilities through partnerships built on mutual trust and focused commitment to a shared purpose. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.